I am mining investor and editor of Resource Stock Digest, Gerardo Del Real, here with my business partner, friend, and colleague, Mr. Nick Hodge, who is also an investor and the publisher of Daily Profit Cycle. This is the 248th episode of our weekly therapy session that we like to call Investing in Bizarro World. We're going to talk Jerome, we're going to talk gold, we're going to talk uranium, we're going to talk US dollar, we're going to talk lithium, we're going to talk about some spectacular gold results out there. But before we get into all of that, Mr. Hodge, how goes you today, sir? 'Tis the season.
'Tis the season, naughty boy. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, and all that good stuff. I think we'll be seeing the good people one more time before the holidays. But I'm doing great. We had a nice long weekend in Vegas. As we talked about last time, flew in the entire team, had some good dinners, saw a fantastic show, hilarious, called Absinthe. And
celebrated your birthday?
That's right, which was the least of the important things that we did. But yes, we did that as well. And so it was good to see everybody and back to it. How are you?
Fantastic. It was fun running up the bar tab. I had a great time. It was great to see everybody. Tabs, multiple. But no, look, it was great seeing everyone. It was good to catch up in person. It was great to see you and your lovely wife and back at it, right? Playing a bit of catch up after being out for a couple of extra days. But Jerome has spoken. Let's get right into it. Jerome has spoken, and we got ourselves the markets that I believe we were talking about just last week or the week before, where we chatted about the commodity super cycle really starting to perk up. Uranium is at a 15, 16-year high, just blew past the $86 a pound level. That's a straight shot to 100. Gold, 2035. Silver broke 24. The US dollar, speaking of broke, seems to be breaking down quickly. It's below the 102 range now, and with the dollar index, of course. So there's a lot going on. Copper, there's a deficit that seems to be materializing there. A lot to get into. Where do you want to start? Is everything awesome again, Nick?
Well, you know what my take is going to be and how full my glass typically is. But no, I think it's a great trailer, but I don't think it's the feature film. So I think you're seeing what's going to play out in a much bigger way, but not until later in 2024. And so I can articulate that in many ways, but
yes.
Basically, I think that the soft landing, hard landing debate is moot until we get another GDP print and a couple of more CPI prints. Because saying you're going to cut 3 times and your Fed funds outlook, looking for a 75 basis points worth of cuts in 2024 is great, but it's not reality until it happens, right? So there's a lot of things that have to happen between now and then, and we'll see. So I'm still of the belief that we get a recession. Interest rates are still telling me that. You mentioned the dollar, so let me comment on that. You'll recall back in July, it got down to 98 or 99 and quickly reversed and went back up. So that remains a possibility. And I was telling you in recent weeks that November, with sort of the softness in rates, look like the middle of the year. So I don't want to say that this stock market is running on fumes, but it kind of is. I equated it to a game of musical chairs, right? I think what you're seeing this week is just everybody's still happy that the music is still playing, right? I'd be interested to see what happens when the music gets taken away. Or to put it in another context, it's like the coyote running off the cliff, right? Like right now his wheels are just still turning. He hasn't had the thing that took him down yet. And so anyway, I do think we're in a commodity super cycle. I do think we get rate cuts. I think we get contraction in growth that gives you an opportunity to see commodities cheaper for a better entry point in the next 6 months. And so it's interesting. We've talked a lot about tax loss selling. I've been selling some things that I've been looking at wait, why are you up so much? You shouldn't be up that much, right? Because of this dovish talk, right? So when you start to feel like that, feeling smart, stuff's going up that you don't think should be, I've taken some profits off the table, and it might cost me more in taxes this year. But we were talking about a gentleman before we started recording earlier, and then he and I were talking about tax loss selling, and he was, of the opinion that he would just pay his taxes for 2023 and wait until 2024 to take his tax losses because he thinks there's going to be a bump early in the year, and yeah, he can still sell some at a loss, but not as big of a loss. So you still get the tax loss, but you're not, losing as
Sure.
much money when you take those off the table. So a long wandering answer there. Last thing I'd say is, yes, rates have fallen. The 2-year has come down, reflecting that dovish posturing. 10-year has come down, reflecting that recession and contracting growth that I've mentioned. But ultimately, they still remain inverted, which tells me a recession has to come. So anyway, I think my first line was pretty good. I think you just got a good trailer of 2024, but it's going to take a lot longer for that feature film to play out.
Meanwhile, the fun folks and fine folks and funny folks in Congress just passed an $886 billion defense policy bill. It's bizarro world out there, Nick. $1 trillion budgets just for the Defense Department, and we don't have the money to even service the debt, really.
I thought you were going to say they were going to build homeless shelters for all the unhoused in the country, but no, we're just going to send the money away.
As we do. We talked gold. Looks beautiful technically. It's a 2035, made a great reversal. It dipped below the 2000 level briefly before Jerome got up there and propped it right back up. How is that looking technically to you? What's the next big technical level that we got to breach in order to get to new all-time highs?
It's its own worst enemy, because now it has to get above 2100
right
for the end of the month or the end of the year. And I'm not quite sure that it's going to happen. And so while it is in a bull market, I was just saying, and you were just saying, that the dollar pulled back, and I was just saying that rates have pulled back, which is one of the things that has allowed gold to do what it's done in the recent weeks. I'm of the opinion that you're going to get a consolidation for the next couple of weeks before you get a breakout to new highs. Just because of what I was saying earlier, right? Like this euphoria about dovishness and cuts, it's not going to last every day for the next 2 weeks, right? Till the end of the year. There's going to be a day where, something happens, or, some Fed governor says something where it's like, oh shit, it's still hawkish or whatever. The gold is going to lose $50 in a day, and you're going to have an opportunity to buy it or gold stocks, which remain cheap again. So I think that answers your question. It's bullish. But it's its own worst enemy. Technically, 2100 seems an awful far distance away, even though it's not. And so, anyway, I think that's pretty good. You want to talk about Mawson, and those were great results.
Oh, absolutely. And I just pulled up the release. I mean, 9.3 meters of 94.9 grams per ton gold by 51% owned as Southern Cross
900
Gold,
gram
right?
meters.
I mean, just absolutely monster hit. As great as that hit is, it's still only the third best hole at the Sunday Creek project, which tells you just how special and how many ounces this thing has the potential to provide the market. So congrats to Mawson. It's one of the few gold companies out there, explorers, that's actually touching, 52-week highs. And again, I agree with you that gold is due for a slight pullback. But again, it's funny the difference a month makes, because before we were talking about which quarter or which year gold was going to break out in. And now we're talking about maybe a 2-week consolidation period to create a new floor and then blast to new all-time highs, right? And I think your point on the gold stocks is spot on. The gold stocks are still dirt cheap out there, folks. Make a list, check it twice, and get ready, because they're starting to run here soon.
And keep your limit orders set, right? Because what happens is, we get excited, or investors get excited. Gold's at 2050 or whatever, and they get bid up, and then oh no, it's at 1990, and they'll lose, right, like 5 or 10%. And if you have limit orders set at those levels, like, you can get those shares on pullbacks, and I'm convinced you're going to have an opportunity still before the turn of the calendar. And last point on gold is, some of the larger, better managed, more profitable companies have started to move, right? Like, look at Fortuna Silver, or look at Kinross, or, look at some of these other, companies out there that have had good bottom lines. Like, they're starting to tick higher. And nonetheless, the disparity since the last gold cycle, 2011, 2012, between gold and the gold stocks themselves still has a big gap to close.
I got to mention that 9.3 meters of 94.9 grams per ton gold was within a broader interval of 382.3 meters of 3.4 grams per ton gold equivalent. I mean, just absolutely fantastic results. Congrats to the team there. Congrats to Moss, and then obviously congrats to the fine folks over at Southern Cross. Great, great, great work. Copper deficits. Got to talk copper deficits. We have the closing of one of the world's biggest copper mines in Panama. They are now appealing, the closure, but whether or not that mine comes back online, it's starting to be pretty damn apparent to me that jurisdictional risk should be at the forefront of every resource speculator's list for 2024. I think the nationalization of assets in other countries is going to increase. I think it's going to be harder to source the critical metals that we need for, this green revolution, whether you agree with the politics of it or not. And then how it's being done, it's clear to me that the lithium and the copper space are both putting in some pretty important bottoms at these levels. And look, the lithium spot price has been beat up some 75, 80% from all-time highs. There's a lot of talk of manipulation. There's a lot of talk of, you can only manipulate a market for 6 to 9 months. We've seen that in the last 6 to 9 months. And, the lithium stocks had a great couple of days here recently on volume, which is rare to close out a year. Typically around this time of the year, it's the 14th of December, we're recording this, volumes start to get light and companies start to get shy on the news. And you don't really see too much price action, too much volatility. Complete opposite in the lithium space right now. I'm seeing a lot of traction. That bodes well for, a lot of the lithium exposure, obviously, that I have with my Patriot position, with my Q2 position, with several other private companies that are on the verge of going public that provide a whole heck of a lot of lithium exposure in my portfolio. It's obviously for me anyhow, the single most overweight commodity in my commodity basket, with copper being a close second as far as shares and dollar value. Thoughts on copper? I know you've been looking at that chart, for the past 7 years. What's it looking like to you? What's the charts telling you?
I'm going to give you my thoughts on lithium first. And I'll tell you, I've been buying lithium stocks, which is going to probably answer the question about copper, because I haven't been buying them as much. So, but timeframes matter. And so hopefully I remember to talk about that as well. Critical elements, lithium. So this is a stock that first financed at 30 cents, ran to $2 and such, more than that at one point. We had a lot of money sold, bought back into it, exercised warrants, etc. And now it's back down to 52-week lows in the 80-cent range, right? This is a fully permitted project that is actually getting bigger because they've been doing some exploration work. But nonetheless, people have gotten bored with the story because they've become impatient and waiting for a financing package once the permit came, which has been a year ago now. So they couple that with the lithium price that went from $80,000 a ton down to I think like $13,000 or $14,000 a ton, and a spodumene price that went from like $8,000 a ton or even more than that to $1,500 a ton. Yeah. And you have a stock that is trading at 52-week lows despite being fully permitted. And having passed feasibility with a net present value like well over $1 billion. And so I've been buying that stock, right? I think the selling is overdone. And at the same time, a couple of smart comments, I guess. It's not a tax loss candidate because I'm not down on my position. I just told you I first financed it at 30 cents and have sold along the way, right? There's no loss to be had. And somebody else wrote in and said, it must be nice to party in Las Vegas while critical elements, hits 52-week lows or whatever. And it's like, well, I partied in Vegas and bought more critical elements. Like, I did both, right? So anyway, and I think a couple of things. Electric vehicles, are more in the psyche, in the retail investor's mind, have more immediate catalyst in terms of monthly and quarterly sales numbers in the U.S. and China, whereas copper isn't as much in the forefront of the investor's mind and doesn't have as many immediate near-term catalysts and headlines, and still has to get through that recession that I was talking about earlier. So if you told me you wanted to buy BHP or Southern Copper or whatever, I wouldn't blame you. But I've done recently what Mr. Dines used to call prodding attacks, and I've bought some of these like larger copper miners, and I decided to sell them recently. Like I was up, I made a little bit of money, but I don't think this is it, like the go. And so anyway, bullish on copper again in the long term, but think you got to work through this recession. Do I own copper miners, speculative ones, you juniors? Sure. But from a macro perspective, I don't think you get that breakout north of $4 until we get through this recession.
I agree with that. You're thinking 2 quarters?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's 2 quarters to get positioned, people, because when it goes,
That's
it's
right.
going to go. It's going to go the way that uranium is going. Have to talk about uranium. $86. The last that I checked, there looks like there's a bill that's going to become law banning imports from Russia, and so
It gives them an out, but still, yeah.
A little bit. You want to talk about the out a bit?
Yeah, I mean, so yes, you can ban Russian imports, but if you can't find any and you get a permission slip, you can still get Russian imports, basically.
Yeah, there you go. But look, bottom line is the news is absolutely bullish. The market's reacting well. The uranium portion of the portfolio, which is 25% of the entire portfolio, they're all at new all-time highs. UEC, there was a short report, a hit piece put out on them yesterday. The stock was down some 15% at one point before macro drivers took the stock right back up to where it was before the report was, right? It ended up closing the day. I'll tell you here in just a second.
I missed that.
Oh, man. It was quick, but, it closed today at 673.
Yeah.
52-week highs. Yeah, 686. So, recovered all of those losses in rather quick fashion. That speaks to the bullishness in the sector, and that speaks to how much runway we have, folks. I had somebody comment or write in asking, when will be the time to actually start taking profits on, all the positions are up some triple digits. And so the time is going to be when we get that blow off high, the 150, 200 level, and everybody's smart and everybody's uranium rich. That's the time to start pressing the button, folks. Right now is most definitely not the time to be pressing the button. To your critical elements point, this is also the time to be pressing the button on the buy side for those lithium names, as you've been doing, Nick. It's funny. Somebody put a smart ass comment on Twitter this week, and I had time for it that day, so I actually responded. But I had posted that nobody knows what's coming, and I actually meant every word that I put up there. I said nobody knows what's coming next with Patriot. Look, there's a ton of questions around Patriot, right? When are the assays coming? Is the MOU with Albemarle going to be consummated? I believe it is, but I don't know that. How aggressive would Albemarle be? Are they financing the whole thing in exchange for how much of the supply? There is a ton of questions, and the bottom line is nobody knows what's coming. We know assays are coming. We don't know what they are. We don't know if we get them before the holidays. I doubt it, by the way. And there's just a lot of questions that I think deserve asking. And it's funny to me when all I try to do is reach out to the company and get interviews so that people are informed, and you still get people that want to make funny comments instead of actually engaging in the serious discussion. Because look, for me, it's a consequential position, right? It isn't 10,000 shares or 20,000 shares. It's quite a few shares that I have. This is, a life changer in many ways for a lot of people. And so it's going to be a pivotal 2024, but there are a lot of unanswered questions on the Patriot side that I am looking forward to answers on. And I think, I think we're going to start getting some of those answers here in short order. Do we get any of those answers before the end of the year? If you know the markets, especially in the junior space, probably not. It's probably going to be on the other side of January. But again, waited this long. It's been a fun year and a half or two. I could wait another month or so.
Hopefully it can close that gap in the quiet period until the new year, because I have a limit order set for that as well.
There you go. There you go. Buy when everyone else is fearful and upset and making smart comments about the stuff. That's how you make money in the space, folks. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't, like I said, I don't cash in your gains and I don't take your losses. So y'all be accountable, and I'll just keep trying to provide as much information as I possibly can whenever I can do it. What else we got? What else is on your mind, Mr. Hodge? What are you looking at as a contrarian? We talked about lithium and you getting into that space. What else are you dabbling in right now? I know you were talking cannabis stocks about a month or so ago, and I wanted to follow back up on that.
Yeah, let me look at. I can talk about cannabis stocks for 1 second, but I was going to give you a different answer. God, they've been all over the place. So, you need legislation, and it doesn't look like we're going to get to it this year. I'm not sure if it becomes a election issue next year, considering that it is a presidential election year. But so far, what I've seen from Biden says, or tells me that he's not really interested in making that like a crown jewel of his campaign. But we'll see. I mean, he is sort of desperate and behind in the polls. That would certainly propel them higher. I haven't been an active buyer. I have an ETF position that I've held and have been up on at times this year and down on at times this year. It's sort of, the news has sort of made the space be volatile. You'll remember earlier this year, the Department of Health and Human Services, told the DEA that they, should reschedule marijuana. That rumor was bought. Stocks went up. People realized that it was not going to materialize. Stocks went back down. And then here in the past 2 months, the stocks have been bid back up. I'm not sure what that is. There was, some talk of loosening of interstate commerce laws. That's really what's going to be the next catalyst forward outside of nationwide legislation. There's been some individual states that advanced, like Ohio went legal in November or December, I believe it was. And so you're getting close to half the states in the union that have now legalized, but it's not something that's, actively on my radar that I'm buying. I was going to tell you something more macro that we started buying this month is a utility stock, or utilities in general, right? That's a real rate sensitive sector. And it sort of speaks to what I was talking about at the beginning of this podcast, right? When rates are going up, utilities don't do well, right? Because they rely a lot on finance for their, their huge operations and capital intensive infrastructure and such. So same with real estate. And those two have been the worst performing sectors over the past year or so, right? During this hiking cycle. In the December issue of Foundational Profits, I had a big write-up about a utility stock, right? Looking out, saying, like, I don't expect the Fed to pivot immediately, which is what I was just telling you that. But over the course of 2024, I do expect rates to start to come down. And so let's start looking at these utilities and identifying the one we want to buy. So I think that's sort of a contrarian thing, given that it was one of the, if not the worst performing sector of the year in the S&P.
Worth noting, mortgage rates, that were as high as 8%, just dropped to the lowest since August at 6.6%. I was looking this morning just, for kicks. That dollar breakdown, it's definitely accelerating. It's definitely got some volume behind it. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the dollar index trading in double digits instead of triple digits here in very, very short order.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, it ticked 98 or 99 in July. So if it holds there, it could go back up. But yeah, I don't disagree with you. You could see it break down below 100.
Yep, definitely. What else is on your mind, Mr. Hodge? What else do we want to get into this week? I know that people are in the holiday mode and we try to make it a little bit more efficient a process here going into that. But I know there were a couple of things that you wanted to chat about.
I put 2 things on the list. So one is the turkey of the year. Speaking of holiday mode, we just had Thanksgiving, and there's a website and a gentleman who writes about newsletters, stock financial newsletters, and keeps track of the promos that we put out to attract new buyers to our services. And from my experience over the years, he's been relatively fair in the feedback he's given, and has even, given us his blessing on some of the picks that we've put out as far as, why they are good speculations.
Sure.
And so I've never had much beef with the guy, but he does give away the teaser picks for the promotions that all publishers put out. And for that, I sort of respect him, right? That's a great idea and a great business model. But anyway, he models them all going back for like a decade. He keeps lists of all the promoted stocks, and every year he puts out a turkey of the year on Thanksgiving. So the stock that was promoted by a newsletter that had the worst return for the year. And if you'll recall, earlier in this year, I was being pretty loud, and even last year, about these new types of batteries that were being promoted and how there was going to be a lithium killer every day and a Tesla killer every day. And there was a new type of battery. And we even made fun of some of them on this podcast. There was one where Nomi Prinz was drinking liquid to start out the promo, and the headline was about liquid energy, and it was so safe that you could drink it. And I was telling you in no minced terms that was absolute fucking bullshit. That it wasn't going to work out. I was also telling you that the recycling wasn't going to work. Like, recycling is going to happen for lithium, but even over the next 10 years, the debt that it's going to make is like a small portion of the overall, lithium that you're going to actually need to be, mined and make these batteries. So anyway, it was sweet, sweet justice when the Turkey of the Year list came out, and the absolute worst performing promoted newsletter stock of the year was the liquid energy stock. Do I still have the article up? I think I do. Let me see if I can find it.
We're petty. I'm sure you have it bookmarked.
Yeah, I have it here. I'm looking for the table though, how much it's actually down. It's only so there's Lion Electric. She promoted was down 86% since she started promoting it. And the ESS Tech, which is the liquid battery one, the liquid energy one, ESS Tech is down 70%. And then there was a lithium recycling one called Li Cycle, LI Cycle, that was down. Wow, that should have been the Turkey, 89%. But anyway, I was telling you that stuff was going to work. And so to be clear, yes, lithium stocks have not had the best year, but they aren't down in that 70 to 80% range.
Nope.
And in fact, are up from levels that in the Q2s and the PMETs of the world, certainly from the levels that we financed them at. And so no Digest Publishing names on that list, to be clear. And we're certainly on his radar because he was writing up the promotion. So I don't know if you have anything to add there, but things look good on paper. Tesla killers sound cool. New batteries sound cool. But as I was saying 6 months ago, like when you've got the entire battery supply chain, the Panasonics of the world, the BIDs of the world, the Teslas of the world, on down the line, right? The CATLs, committing hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars to lithium ion cells and the lithium supply chain. That inertia is so great that you can't just like new battery, liquid battery, like other thing, like it just doesn't work that way. And so you can improve the lithium cells, to be sure. And I'm very interested in companies that are doing that. You can, and I've said that 6 months ago too, you can change the chemistry of the anode and the cathode, but at the end of the day, it's still a lithium ion battery. It will be so for the next decade. So congratulations to the turkeys of the year.
Congratulations to the turkeys of the year at all. Nick and I rarely disagree on things. I think probably one of the few things that we can agree on is who's more petty, him or I. So so y'all know we have long memories and we don't tend to forget slights very easily because we're both petty as hell, yo. It's just a matter of, do I have time to address you that day? But sooner or later, it always catches up. So anyhow.
Oh, I got, lots of screenshots and folders and spreadsheets.
You wanted to talk about homelessness too, switching subjects a little bit, something more serious.
So, we try to do positive stories every once in a while. And I've talked about homelessness, I feel like, a fair amount over the years and various solutions. I think the last time I was telling you about, I think it was a province in Canada that was giving people money. And I've increasingly come around to that aspect of a universal basic income. The studies show that when you give people money, as long as there's parameters about drug use, et cetera, that they end up doing better than if you don't give them money, which isn't that big of a shot. So anyway, what Reno did is they built this giant tent city, man. It cost like $17 million. They built it in 2021. And it houses homeless people, obviously. It's got a metal detector at the gate. No weapons allowed inside, no drugs allowed inside. It's kind of like a prison in that respect. No visitors, not even family. But while you're living in it, you can get resources to find a job. They'll pay for you to, go to job interviews, all that sort of stuff. And so they've reduced the homeless population by over half, like 58% in 2 years.
Wow.
And I don't know about the majority, but a portion of the people that have, lived in this facility then go on. There's an adjacent facility to it where they've imported, think of like a mining camp or something where the workers stay. They build like one bedroom temporary housing that they can rent once they come out of the tent city for a certain, like a low amount a month. And so anyway, it's worked. Like I say, they've reduced the numbers by half. People in the city seem to like the plan. My question is about NIMBYism. Like, I wonder how people felt about them building this tent city when it was first announced, like next to their business or next to their neighborhood. But, there's always going to be NIMBYism. But nonetheless, the article, it was a Wall Street Journal article, was comparing it to like California's approach. And they've spent, so this was $20 million basically for Reno. California, which is obviously much bigger than Reno, but nonetheless, they've spent $20 billion since, oh God, can I find it?
Well, while you find it, I'll say one thing too. We just had, a generational talent signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers,
No,
Otani, and
Tane, sure.
and look, part of the reason that he signed with LA instead of San Francisco was the homelessness problem in San Francisco. San
Mhm.
Francisco made him the exact same offer with the exact same structure, and he wanted to stay in California, but ultimately signed with the LA Dodgers. And his some of his team cited the fact that there's a perception that San Francisco is a trouble spot, and I don't think it's a
Oh,
coincidence that in
perception.
yeah, it's not perception. It's real. It's very much real. That's how they worded it. But look, I don't think it's a coincidence that the Giants have failed to attract any major free agents thus far. Not saying it can't happen, not saying there's not, contingencies in place to keep the players safe, but it definitely has taken, a horrible turn for the worse, specifically in San Francisco.
Yeah, so I have some comments on that. But the other thing Reno does is, and I'll get back to California, that tent city now allows enough beds that they can basically kick people off the street, right? Because there's a ninth Circuit Supreme Court ruling that says if a city doesn't have enough beds, that it can't make public camping illegal, right? That's
Right.
been one of the problems here in Spokane. So with this tent city, Reno has enough beds for all the homeless that it can, make it illegal to camp in public, so it can get them into these tents or otherwise, at least off the streets. So anyway, California has spent 20 billion in the past 5 years, and they still have 50% of the nation's homeless. And so for context, because context is always important, California is like the fifth biggest economy in the world. And so they're like, 20% or something of the US economy. And so 25% of the economy, but 50% of the homelessness. I mean, that's sort of pretty good context there, despite spending 20 billion, where Reno's cut it in half just by giving them a free house and spending 20 million. So, and then on the Otani stuff, yeah, no, it's a quality of life, man. I mean, not only does it suck to be homeless, obviously, like put yourself in their shoes, but for, quote unquote, productive members of society, like it's not good for a city or for, quality of life or for the morale or psyche of the populace to, get up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning and drive to work and, try to be all happy and hunky-dory and, have to drive by grovelers or panhandlers at every intersection. Like, that doesn't make for a good start to the day, right? Like, you're bopping to your ice cube on the way to work, and you gotta
trying to make it a good day.
you got to turn it down at the corner because like you're offended or you feel offended because you shouldn't be in a good mood while this guy doesn't have a house.
Yeah.
And I think that has ripple effects in society, and so it's just a big problem in general, and has obviously gotten worse. But I think the takeaway is that there are solutions out there. Do they cost money? Yes, but what's 20 million for a homeless shelter that gets human beings, out of the cold and the heat and on a proven better path, while you're passing, as you just said, $800 billion, spending bills on Congress that's not even going to go to the U.S. So anyway, just how I think about homelessness. And when I see articles like that, I try to make sure other people hear about them.
Yeah, again, worth noting that we're still in the middle of two wars, right? We got everything still going on in the Middle East, which is just horrific, right? That still hurts my heart just to see the images that come out of there. And the U.S. is still funding the Ukraine, despite lip service saying that may be coming to an end, and it's still a bizarre world out there, everybody. So look, I know that we're getting a little long-winded here on what was supposed to be a shortish episode. I think 34 minutes is a pretty good place to bookmark everything. I'm supposed to remind y'all to go to dailyprofitcycle.com/subscribe, where Nick and my thoughts, along with our talented group of editors on all things ranging from gold to AI to crypto to uranium. Absolutely free information, free content, tons of it. I can't let you go without asking you about Bitcoin. We got a little bit of a consolidation. It ran to 45,000, sitting at 42 as we speak. Are we getting ready for that next leg higher?
Oh, wow. I don't know. What I would say is that it is bullish. I have even considered allocating to it in letters, via ETFs and stuff, but it's on a short leash. So it's very much liquidity driven. And I guess I haven't decided if the risk is worth waiting in yet until there's like a clear breakout. So it is bullish, and I think it could go higher, especially when you get the true dovishness from the Fed. So back to the original answer
Yep.
I gave you, 33 minutes ago, you're getting a very good preview of what 2024 is going to look like. I'd be interested to see what happens when you get contractionary economic prints to both Bitcoin and gold in the short to intermediate term, as opposed to the next 12 to 18 months. And there was one more thing I was going to say. You won't be hearing from us before Christmas. I just looked at the calendar. It's really getting away from me. I thought we had another week or two.
I thought so too.
The next episode you'll get will be on the 26th. So make sure you buy all your presents, send all your cards, and have yourselves a wonderful Christmas. But we will have an episode out the day after that we record before Christmas that you can look forward to.
There you go. We should we should send out the first episode and just offend everyone. You guys think we're not polite now? 247 episodes ago, it was a different landscape, and tell us to tone it down a little bit.
One day I'll have to go back and watch them. I'm glad we have this historical record.
So good. The kids will get a kick out of it when they get older, man. Anyhow, I hope everybody has a phenomenal Christmas, holiday, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, man. I hope it's peaceful. I hope it's surrounded by loved ones, and be kind to each other out there, everybody. I'm Gerardo Del Real. It's been fun hanging out with you, Mr. Nick Hodge. This was the 248th episode of our weekly therapy session that we like to call Investing in Bizarro World. Nick, words of wisdom?
No words of wisdom. Enjoy the holiday. Hopefully you can spend it with people you love, and then we'll see you back here in a week.
Take care, y'all.
Hey there, you independent-minded investor. If you like this video, make sure to tell us so by clicking the like button below. Subscribe to our channel so you never miss another one. And share it with everyone you know on social media. You can also click the link in the description below to check out more information-packed videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.